The most exhausting role in a relationship is being the one who always understands. Because at first it feels like maturity. You pause before reacting. You give people the benefit of the doubt. You try not to turn small moments into bigger problems. So when something bothers you, you manage it quietly first. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. Maybe it's not serious enough to bring up. Maybe it'll feel smaller tomorrow. And most of the time, it works. The conversation moves on. The tension passes. Nothing breaks. But after a while, you stop noticing how much of the relationship is being held together by the things you choose not to say. Over time, you stop thinking about it consciously. You already know what role you're going to play. The calm one, the reasonable one, the one who keeps things easy. So before you even react, you start managing the reaction itself. You soften your tone. You shorten what you really wanted to say. Sometimes you decide it's not worth bringing up at all. And because nothing seems wrong on the surface, the pattern becomes harder to notice. Because the pattern doesn't just affect how you react, it changes what you start accepting. Things that would have bothered you immediately before now take longer to register. You become more forgiving, more accommodating, more likely to talk yourself out of what you felt. And slowly your threshold shifts. What felt dismissive before now feels understandable. What felt hurtful before now feels not serious enough. Because now your first instinct is to manage the feeling before deciding whether it matters. And after a while, people stop checking twice. To them, you're someone who usually seems okay. You don't stay upset for long. You don't push conversations further. You don't make people sit inside uncomfortable moments with you. So eventually, fewer things get clarified, fewer things get revisited, and more gets left exactly where it landed. Even the things that stayed with you longer than you expected. Because once people get used to you handling things quietly, they start trusting the silence too. And this is where the pattern becomes difficult to escape. Because by now, staying quiet feels more natural than speaking up. Not easier, natural. You've spent so much time managing your reactions internally that expressing them starts feeling excessive, even when something genuinely affects you. So before you say anything, another voice shows up first. Maybe it's not important enough. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I should just let this pass too. And the longer this pattern continues, the harder it becomes to tell whether you're being understanding or just slowly disappearing from your own relationships. And the hardest part is, this doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, across small moments. Reactions you hold back, conversations you shorten, feelings you process alone before anyone else ever sees them. Until after a while, you stop having a clear sense of what genuinely affects you and what you've simply trained yourself to move past automatically. Because when every feeling gets filtered first, eventually the filtering becomes automatic too. And that changes something deeper. Not just what you express, but what you allow yourself to fully feel in the first place. And after enough time, it stops feeling like something you're doing. It just starts feeling like you. The version of you who doesn't ask for much, who lets things go quickly, who avoids making situations heavier than they need to be. And because this version of you has existed for so long, it becomes harder to separate your personality from the pattern itself. You stop knowing which parts of you are genuine patience and which parts were built around keeping relationships comfortable. Because when adaptation becomes constant, eventually it stops registering as adaptation at all. It becomes identity. And maybe that's why this kind of exhaustion is so difficult to recognize. Because nothing about it feels dramatic. You're still patient, still understanding, still functioning the way you always have. But somewhere along the way, the constant adjusting stops feeling like something you do for relationships. It becomes the way you exist inside them. Until eventually, you're left trying to figure out whether this is genuinely who you are or just the version of yourself that learned to keep the peace.